1, 2, 3, 4. Are you good?
We'll start. So good morning, everyone. We have a very early side session on a very important topic on how to accelerate the EU action on building renovation and finance through the revised energy performance of building directive. We now out of our Clean Energy for All package, where we have 8 legislative proposals. The EPBD, the Energy Performance of Building Directive, has just been adopted. So we had an excellent negotiation and discussion both with the Parliament, and we are very happy that the rapporteur, Mr. Ben Benson, can be here today, and with the Council. And the Commissioner will now introduce the main subjects of the EPBD, what will change for the building sector in the future in Europe. So, Commissioner, let's come to the floor.
Thank you. Member of the European Parliament, dear panelists, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the European Commission, I would like to welcome you to this important Clean Energy Ministerial Side event on the energy performance of building. And this is a great opportunity, 2 years and a half after COP21 in Paris, to recall the importance of improving the energy performance of our building stock worldwide. This is the core objective of the Clean Energy Ministerial campaign on nearly zero energy buildings, which we are successfully co-leading together with France, and in close collaboration with the Global Alliance of Buildings and Construction. Improving the energy performance of buildings is central to achieve the temperature objective and mitigation goals of the Paris Agreement. Energy used in buildings and for buildings construction represent today more than 1/3 of global final energy consumption and contributes to nearly 1/4 of greenhouse gas emissions worldwide. And with the increase of world population, the global building floor area is also expected to double in the next 40 years, which could increase energy demand in buildings by 50% by 2050. The pressing need to improve the energy performance of buildings worldwide leads to a dual challenge. On the one side, the most developing economies have to accelerate the refurbishment and the decarbonization of their existing building stocks. In Europe, the current refurbishment rate is around 1% of our building stock, and it's very slow because most buildings will be there in 2050 and 75% are considered today non-efficient. But on the other side, emerging economies need to move straight toward the construction of zero emissions, highly efficient and resilient buildings. And this is an opportunity to build on the experience already existing in Europe and elsewhere in the world around nearly zero energy buildings. The European Commission has decided in its Energy Union strategy to put energy efficiency first. As part of the package, the Commission is revisiting in a comprehensive way its approach to energy efficiency. In order to increase energy efficiency for products, we have already put in place our new legislation on energy labelling, and we are working on eco-design measures. Many household appliances are impacted by these measures, contributing to reduce energy consumption by the building stock. And we are also revisiting and currently discussing with co-legislators our framework directive on energy efficiency, setting out the overall European Union target to be achieved and measures to get there. In this context, the Commission has also proposed legislative and non-legislative measures to increase, in particular, the energy performance of buildings. The amended Energy Performance of Buildings Directive, which has recently been adopted by the European Parliament and the Council, includes game-changing measures to enhance the use of new technologies in buildings and to strengthen long-term renovation strategies to ensure a decarbonized building stock by 2050. The intention of this amendment directive is to provide a comprehensive and stable policy framework for the future, and at the same time, to send clear signals for investments to the building sector. Making the heating and cooling more efficient, smarter and sustainable is a particular focus area, and we are encouraging this transformation in the building sectors through various tools, from policy and regulatory measures to promoting the development and uptake of relevant innovative technologies. The Commission has also clarified the rules on the recording of energy performance contracts in government accounts to facilitate investment, namely in the public sector buildings such as hospitals, schools, or universities. And to properly implement the regulatory framework, more financing should indeed be made available and key barriers should be addressed. Public finance must be effectively steered in the desired direction, And even more importantly, private financing for this sector should be mobilized to a much greater extent. For this reason, the Commission has also launched a specific initiative on financing called the Small Finance for Small Building Initiative. Attracting investment and unlocking private finances on the necessary scale is particularly important to secure our energy transition. In Europe, we estimate the need of additional investments of around 177 billion euros per year in the period 2021 to 2030 to achieve our proposed energy and climate objectives by 2030. Improving the energy performance of our building stock worldwide is a topic of great and visionary importance. We should be gaining momentum and recognition. I believe the Clean Energy Ministerial is a key forum for spreading the message of the importance of energy efficiency in buildings. And this is why we decided to organize this event just before CEM9 plenary session, and because this topic deserves more visibility, more attention, and more focus. And this event is also an opportunity to coordinate efforts while taking stock of the latest policy development coming from Europe. If we want to change current market practices and spur investment in energy efficiency in buildings, we need indeed to mobilize the whole building value chain, and we are all accountable for the chain to occur, whether we represent project promoters, building owners, public authorities, banks, investors, asset managers, construction companies, or architects. I unfortunately cannot stay with you until the end of this side event, as I have to attend the opening of the closed-door ministerial session, but I will leave you in the hands of my services. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Commissioner. I think we will pass on the floor directly to Director Virginie Schwartz from the Ministry of Ecology and Inclusive Transition from France. So we are co-leading this initiative, so I give the floor to France.
Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We also see building efficiency as a major issue of our energy and climate policies because in France, buildings are responsible for 45% of energy consumption and 25% of our emissions, but also because in line with the EU priority, we really want to put energy efficiency first in general. And make it a major priority. And as you know, this is why we are advocating for a high level of ambition in the Energy Efficiency Directive with a 35% binding energy efficiency target at the EU level. To come back to the building sector, we're also very interested, of course, in the job creation and contribution to security of supply. But we have in France a very specific focus on fuel poverty and improvement of comfort and well-being of our citizens. We have today 7 million homes out of 28 million, which are extremely energy intensive, often due to inadequate insulation, and we have to work on that. For years, we have been implementing policies, but we now really need to go faster and further. And without a huge decrease in energy consumptions in our buildings, we will not be able to reach our carbon neutrality target that we have set for ourselves by 2050. So we need to take action at the local, at the national, at the European, and at the international level. To build on the directive on energy performance of buildings that has just been adopted, the French government has released on April 26th, so just a few days ago, its new plan for energy efficiency of existing buildings, because as the Commissioner reminded us, refurbishing all these existing buildings in Europe is really where we have to put our attention. There are three main ideas in this plan. One is making energy efficiency more desirable. Even if we all love energy efficiency, we have to admit that most people do what they do in their homes for other reasons than energy efficiency. And that we have to take on board energy efficiency as often as we can when other types of works are being done in a home. And maybe we have to accept that sometimes we will do imperfect energy efficiency projects, but it will still be better than no project at all. We also have to create more confidence in the process, the individuals have to go through improving training all along the value chain, ensuring better quality control, making the energy performance measurement more reliable, increasing the transparency as the directive asks us to, and making the subsidy system more understandable and easier to access. Third major idea, we want to have a more tailor-made approach for each category of households or businesses. We want to make sure that we have a specific approach for each of them, not deal in the same way with low-income or medium-income households, with landlords or tenants, with individual households, collective buildings. So we have to go for much more targeted measures, and especially, again, targeted measures for lower-income households. This plan was the result of very intense dialogue in France over several months with stakeholders, almost 600 contributions, 60 regional workshops were organized. And this is essential because the success of our building policies really will come from the mobilization and support we can get from all these stakeholders all through the value chain, the private investors that we need to bring with their money, the companies, including the smaller company, the craftspeople, the developers, but also the local authorities who have a major role to play in going towards citizens to engage them on energy efficiency in buildings. So this plan sets precise, clear, and ambitious objectives. For example, we want to eliminate all energy-intensive homes in the social housing by 2022. So that's very close. We want to accelerate household renovation. We want to create what we call a common signature that will unify all actions that are being done in France, both at the local and at the national level, so that it's easier for people. They don't have all these schemes, all these names, all these different solutions. They will have just one signature for energy efficiency in their homes. And then we want to accelerate commercial building renovation by maintaining ambitious requirements for this housing stock and have a 40% increase in private buildings by 2030 and a 15% decrease in public buildings by 2023. And of course work on training and innovation with about 30 million euros to train 65,000 professionals. So overall this plan is about 40 billion euros of public support over 5 years. But the challenge of buildings is not only French, it's not only European, it's a worldwide challenge, and the European excellency in buildings and in energy efficiency of buildings will be even more meaningful if, with regard to our fight on climate change, if we can really stimulate a worldwide movement to refurbish buildings, but also to create energy efficiency buildings in other countries. And that is why France, with UN Environment, with Germany and Switzerland, has launched the Global Alliance for Buildings and Construction for Climate during COP21. The GABC. It's a global voluntary partnership that now has more than 25 countries representing 40 billion inhabitants that strives to share this vision of how we can have a more efficient buildings, new and existing. With a specific assistance program, Buildings Energy Efficiency Program, that was initiated by Germany and France. There will be some further discussions during the day on this. And this is also why we work with the Commission on the Near Zero Efficiency Building campaign with the CEM. That is, again, the way to disseminate. So much has been done, much remains to be done. There will be no sustainable development without sustainable building. We like to say that we build buildings, but buildings also build us and build our society. They really make our world, and we have to build them in a sustainable way if we want to reach all our more large and global environments. So let's hope what we're all doing today contributes to that.
Thank you
And
very much,
I also
Virginie.
have to go
Yes.
to the opening.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Thank you very much, Virginie Schwartz, for these introductory statements. We know that the CEM meeting, the official meeting, starts in 5 minutes, but we are happy to have a panel discussion right now. So I already have introduced Mr. Benson, who is a member of the European Parliament and rapporteur of the revision of the EPBD, the Energy Performance of Building Directive. Mr. Benson was also Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Economic and Business Affairs in Denmark from 2001 to 2008, and I think well known not only in Brussels or not only here. And then on my panel I have Mr. Peter Domgaard Jensen, the CEO of the large Danish pension fund manager PKA, managing more than 30 billion euro of assets. Mr. Peter Domgaard Jensen is also since January 2017 the chair of the Institutional Investors Group on Climate Change. Last but not least, I introduce and welcome Mr. Niels Kåre-Bruun, Managing Director of Better Home. So Better Home is an innovative renovation model developed by 4 Danish manufacturing of building products and solutions, I think quite well known, Danfoss, Grundfos, Rockwool and Velux groups. And as facilitator, Better Home is transforming a complex and fragmented renovation process into a simple and straightforward procedure for homeowners. This one-stop shop initiative has proven very successful in accelerating holistic energy renovations in Denmark and Sweden since it was launched in 2014. So very much welcome. We will start the panel with 5 to 7 minutes introductory statement, and I would like to give you the floor, Mr. Benson.
Yes.
Sorry. Just need one second.
First of all, thank you so much, Chair, for the invitation to join this meeting and be part of the discussion today. It's clear that I'm here in the capacity of a rapporteur for the Buildings Directive, the EPBD, which received its final stamp of approval by ministers 10 days ago. Also, as mentioned, it's the first legislative proposal who reached the target. We have still 7 back, and hopefully we will also reach the target with those. Back to the EPBD, there's probably no reason to explain further how buildings are a key ambition to become sustainable and leave a better planet for our children and grandchildren. We keep talking about targets and emission reductions, but once again, the real ambition is to be sustainable. The only way to do that is to make cost-effective changes to society. Since all changes cost money, we politicians can spend years debating and negotiating how to spend public money. I'm sorry to say politicians love to use other people's money, but that's not enough. We also need private money working in this way. However, in the field of building renovation, unlike other areas, we are fortunate there is a clear business case to renovate our buildings. It's simply good business. It pays off to renovate our buildings, not just for the individual company or household, but even further into society. Naturally for our sustainability, but also property value, competitiveness, and public health, also as mentioned today. We are also fortunate that private investors see this opportunity and have financing ready and available. So why it's not happening fast enough? That's the question. One of the main reasons is there's an upfront investment which hampers some from starting the renovation. This problem we tackled head-on in the revised EPBD. We spell out in capital letters that member states must ensure that more funding reaches the market on building renovations. We oblige member states to launch financing tools, one-stop shops, aggregation mechanisms for projects, and investment platforms. We require member states to use public money to leverage private investments into energy renovations and help reduce the view of the risk of energy-efficient initiatives. I'm proud to say that I believe this will make a significant impact and help boost energy renovations if done right by member states. So member states must now get it right when implementing the directive. I think we have already seen that private investors have shown their willingness to play the ball. For example, with the energy efficient mortgage initiative proving the good investment of energy renovations. I hope that member states will now act responsibility, ensure good implementation, and put these EPBD financing initiatives into practice in the market so energy renovations can get the boost they deserve. I know when discussing all those issues, we are speaking about FC money, we are the younger money, we are speaking about regional funds, cohesion funds, etc. And many other good public funding. But if we really need to go further, we need to get private money out working. And I think we have really good opportunities for the future due to the low interest rate we see in Europe, all over Europe at the moment. We see a lot of pension funds who are hunting good investments. And to be honest, what they need is certainty. And with these long renovation rates, where we now have committed, all of us, even all member states, have committed themselves to come with long renovation plans and with milestones in 30 and 40. And also on that regard, I think it's possible. Thank you for the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Benson. I think, indeed, one of the key elements of the revised EPBD is this long-term renovation strategy, which gives that long-term view we need and stability. But we also heard a lot about the need for financing, the need for private investment, and I would like to introduce or to give the floor to Mr. Peter Damgaard Jensen from PKA, who will exactly explain to us how we can invest more privately and what PKA can contribute on energy efficiency. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, first of all, I'm sorry I was late. I was not out in Copenhagen looking at real estate, but I was at 3 different addresses before I found it. But I reached it finally. Sorry. Finally. We are glad as IIGCC to have the opportunity to be part of the discussions on how investments can be part of the huge change from a fossil fuel to a green economy. As you said, IIGCC is based on more than 150 European institutional investors that work together actively with climate and green investment, and in maybe the important part in this, we are representing $21 trillion of capital in these groups. In IIGCC that have been working for nearly 15 years, we see a clear and rapidly growing interest among institutional investors for creating portfolios that reflect the change from a fossil fuel-based economy to a green economy. As global investors, we need policymakers to commit to long-term ambitious climate targets which investors can use when we implement our investment strategies. We also need, in some areas, incentive structures leading to a reallocation of capital towards green projects. And what is it more specifically we need? We need regulation that makes it profitable to build new buildings with the highest possible energy efficiency, both seen from the owner and the tenant's point of view. We also need regulation that makes it profitable to renovate existing buildings in our real estate portfolio to the highest possible standard. And here we have to be able to use the opportunity that comes when there is a change in ownership, either by the owners or by the tenants. And we need also to have to make it profitable to buy existing buildings or real estate portfolios and gradually renovate them. To make some concrete examples, PKA has today we have nearly 40 billion euros of capital under management, and 10% of that is in our real estate portfolio, mainly here in Denmark. And we have set a goal that in 2020, the carbon emission from our buildings will be half of what it was in 2015. Today we can't see if this is really going to be profitable, but we think that making the buildings more resilient, looking into the future, will give us the profit and returns we need in this area. But even stronger goals and stronger regulation in this area will make it, I think, will drive more investors to make changes in this area. And then on the directive, the directive only increases the binding target by 3%. We think we should be more ambitious, and that's in general. As investors, we are investing now with the target of long-term investments that have to reach out to 2040 and 2050. So for us, being the most ambitious you can do in the political sector is actually what we want. We also look for energy efficiency being applied across the entire energy system, from generation through transmission and distribution and consumption. We would also like to invest in that part of the efficiency chain. But until now, we had seen that the debate in Europe is concentrated on buildings, so we would very much have liked that this was widened out. As an example, the EU project Heat Roadmap Europe estimates that there's more heat wasted during electricity generation in Europe than that is required to heat all buildings on our continent. The revised directive proposes to extend beyond 2020 the application of the energy savings obligation scheme, which requires utility. It also sets a target that companies should help the consumers to use 1.5% less energy each year. And also in that area, we think there should be a higher and more ambitious goal. As a large investor, in many cases, we lack investment solutions of scale. And besides investors' own real estate and own portfolio and green bonds, until now, there have only been a few options for institutional investors to be involved in energy efficiency. Even though that the new directive is a step in the right direction, I'm not sure it will be a real game changer in that sense. So, if I should conclude on what we find extremely important in this area. Firstly, it's clear when we look at the 2050 goals that a considerable part of the changes are needed to be in the form of better energy efficiency. Seen from an investor point of view, we can't stress enough that in this area we have to have long-term and ambitious and clear goals. And it is important that energy efficiency is applied across the entire energy system.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Indeed, in a way, building sector is 40% of our energy consumption. So this is a key sector we have been giving that new EPBD revised framework and finance for both private side. But there is also a debate right now on the overall energy efficiency targets for 2030, as the Commissioner mentioned, where we hope to get this ambition also in other fields, including transport, by the way. That's one of the discussions as well, which we're having right now with the Parliament and with the Council. But I would like now to give the floor to Niels Korbrun, if I pronounce it well, who will speak about the Better Home initiative in Sweden and Denmark.
Yes.
And I will give you the floor to explain to us what does it mean and what are you doing with this initiative, One-Stop Shop.
Thank you very much for the word, and thank you for your time. And we are kind of practical suggestion or solution on how we can accelerate and activate this market. So I'm a little bit on the lower themes here, but trying to explain what we have done. And starting that, our recommendations is actually that we want to structure the supply side. We have done that. We use digital solutions in order to reduce the whole very complex management of this. And the third, but not least interesting thing, we're working with building the awareness. Because the awareness is at the end user, at the tenant, at the house owner, and maybe also at the financing parts. Well, Better Home was started and founded by these very strong companies. They didn't want to wait any longer. We wanted to do something and to show the way in one way or the other. It is Danfoss, Grundfos, Rockwool, and Velox. We want to make it easy and much easier to get this process up and running. We want to offer substantial solutions, deliver quality both in products, so to say, we knew we would do that, but also in the workmanship, and ensure overview of the funding. And well, it is too complex for the house owner to start up these processes. Realizing that and being a little bit humble about that, because we can of course tell a lot about our very viable products, but they needed a roadmap, they needed some assistance in the prioritization of these and how to do it simply. Actually, we wanted to align the supply side with the demand side in a really smart way. And what we have done, the innovation in Better Home is basically that we have used a lot of digitalization. It is a digital platform, as Rockwool said for a few minutes ago. Definitely. We're working with simple quality checks. We're working with rewarding investments, not only in terms of saving the energy, but actually the maintenance slack and the value assurance in buildings that would be your interest in this. And the toolbox for the installer, how to empower them to deliver these complex solutions, and the transparency and reliability, especially from the end user, and of course, focus and focus and focus on the homeowner. This branch is a little bit dominated by another focus, so we need to have a focus on the homeowner or the decision maker. And to say, well, our process and the offerings we actually provide here is homeowner-centric approach from first step to the last step. It's tailor-made multi-service solutions because refurbishment projects is actually very holistic projects and buildings have their own footprint in many ways. And then the holistically planned process is very important, and not the least single payment. Not a lot of different installers and entrepreneurs working in this process. So the simplicity is very, very important. And let me state that, well, it's very simple to get up and running in Better Home. 3 clicks on the Better Home web platform. We want the energy consumption, some improvement ideas, maybe emotional ideas, and then ask for an installer, and then you're up and running. This is actually the basis of our platform. And just to mention some numbers, I've been asked from very friendly people about how Better Home is actually developing right now. And last year we had a turnover on projects of 22 million euros, primarily in the one-family houses, but we are starting up in the multi-family houses. And the average building or project size is actually 66,000 euros what we call deep refurbishment. This has been more or less the white elephant in the jungle. How can we actually do more than just some surface elements, but actually provide a deep refurbishment where we take on reducing the energy, improving the indoor climate, reducing the slack of the maintenance in the buildings, and assuring that the inner value of our buildings, which is one of the foundations of our economy, is actually there. That's what we have. We are a good solution on that case. And again, coming back to that, our recommendation is focusing on the awareness at the homeowners, digital solutions, and of course that we work a lot with structuring the supply side. This is what Better Home is.
Thank you very much. So you're extremely active here in Denmark, but also Sweden and maybe in the future
And around in Europe.
Around in Europe. Thank you. I think that shows concretely what is needed to make happening what we have in our framework directive and what we are asking for from the private investors and what we are offering also from the public side. We have 10 minutes left. And I would like to open the floor for questions. Can be to one or all of the speakers. We have a bit of time, so the floor is yours. Please, and introduce yourself, even most of you know you very well.
Hi, my name is Peter Sweeten. I'm here. I'll talk as the rapporteur perhaps of the Energy Efficiency Financial Institutions Group. Thank you so much for that excellent panel. And frankly, I'm really delighted that the Clean Energy Ministerial in its ninth version is talking about buildings off the bat, which is a change from before. So thank you for that. My question is really in two parts. The first is, we obviously need, and particularly pension funds need, originators and intermediaries inside of the financial system to go and find buildings to fund, to provide portfolios to you. And one of the things that I think is very attractive, and I encourage both the Commission and Parliament to connect the European Sustainable Finance Agenda, just released, to encourage financial institutions to mine their existing portfolios of mortgages. It's not about inventing brand new energy efficient mortgages, which would be excellent and is excellent, but it's about mining the existing portfolio to discover which of those buildings are efficient and which are not, and asking banks to know the answer to that question, which in some countries they do, in others they don't. And why is that relevant to Better Homes? I think it's relevant to Better Homes because how often are we offered a better car? Quite frankly, all the time. Every time we look at our phones, every time we turn on the television, we're offered a better car. How often are we offered a better home?
Awareness, yes.
So we'd like to make that desirable, and if banks were able to know the difference between what's not a good home and what is a good home, they may be able to work with you to provide their customers a better home. And of course that would have the economic impacts and so on. So I think there's a real opportunity to connect sustainable finance with the outcomes that you're desiring.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter. Maybe I take another question and then give you the floor for reaction. Yes, please. Just in front of Peter. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. My name is Carsten Blinting. I represent the specialized consultancy in efficiency in Norway. I have a question which I think is mostly directed to the Lamborg. I heard in your presentation a mentioning of two possible groups of barriers for mobilizing more private finance for the efficiency. One was regulatory limitations in framework conditions, and the other one was the need for achieving scale when investing. And my question is, what do you see as the main barrier for you engaging more in energy efficiency in buildings? And would you have any recommendations, for instance, for the policymakers in that area?
Thank you. Maybe a short one, and then I give the floor to the three.
Okay, so I'm Harry van Aert, Philip Lighting, also the chairman of the European Alliance to Save Energy. So thank you for your good work, also Bente, thank you for your good work on the building directive. But we know we need to do more. We need to actually go to high renovation rates. One of the arguments holding that back is that it's difficult, and that argument is being recycled quite a bit. What we've learned from an initiative that you may know, Architecture 2030, is that if you reduce the moment of ownership or tenancy change for residential, public, private sector buildings to stimulate and regulate deeper renovation, that would be enough to go to 3% renovation rates. So what is your view on our ability, that may take some time, to regulate that moment as being the moment for deeper renovation? Because then it's also more interesting for pension funds and others, because you get more valuable buildings.
Thank you very much. Maybe I start with you, Mr. Benson.
When we worked with the EPBD, we had a huge discussion around all the political parties. What could we really do to make such a strong directive as possible? We also know there's huge differences between what's going on in Romania, Bulgaria, the Czech Republic, Slovakia, and compared to what's going on in Sweden, Denmark, Netherlands, Germany. And therefore, what we have done now, we have created a toolbox. And then it's up to the member states which tool they want to choose. I love to have a renovation rates on binding on 3%, no doubt about that. But what we really reached, I think the Commission will agree on that, was that we really had a high pressure on member states because they arrived with a nationalistic approach. And negotiating with ministers of energy, from my seat in European Parliament, you are not negotiating with the ministers of energy. You are negotiating with the ministers of finance. And they do not see renovation as an investment. They see that as expenditures. And they only look for the next budget. And therefore, I think really that the result we have really, in my point of view, see the opportunities now for renovation rates in member countries. And if they want to make a cap per square meter, or they want to say we want 3%, it is up to the member states. I think we really came as far as we could in the European Parliament. Normally in European Parliament, we have another approach than we assume in member states. And hopefully the EPBD will start deep renovation in many member countries. But if I have started to say, I want a binding renovation rate on 3%, I've had no EPBD.
No, I would certainly agree. I mean, it's a major achievement, the revision of the EPBD, thanks to quite ambition from the Parliament, but also then support from the Council. I think the negotiation overall went very well, and as you pointed out, there are differences in our member states. But I think there are also a couple of questions to PK.
Firstly, I would say I'm very aware of that when we say we want more ambitious goals, it's not so easy. But it's just to say that actually to have more investments, it is important to have ambitious goals because that sets a clear direction. So it's supporting your arguments for having more ambition. The second one about the problems we see, if we
5 more minutes.
if you look at renovation outside the buildings we are owners of, and we have set up a Danish fund, Sustain Solutions, where we invest in other buildings to get the renovation. And here we can see we get a lot of small projects. And as big investors, we need larger projects because, or else we have the risk that there's too much administration for us. So there we might create new entities that's able to do that, and we might need also some political help in that area. And to take a regulation barrier we have, and that's in the Danish system, that when we energy renovate a building, a lot of the savings are on the tenants. But we are not allowed to raise the payment from the tenants just because of energy savings. So if we look at just from 1 year to the next year, there isn't really a business case for us. We have really to look at it from long term. And I think it would be fair to say that some of these savings that the tenants have actually could do some of the payment for the renovation we are doing.
Absolutely. You want to add a few points on Better Home?
Yes, just to say that we are kind of a button-up initiative, and basically I agree with you that there is a challenge, but you are focusing on saving the energy, but if you were also focusing on reducing the maintenance costs, that is actually in Denmark. Maybe solving the problems. And my message is actually that we sit down for each country in the EU and work focused on how can we crack the barriers, and we would be very glad in Better Home to assist in activating this market from a bottom-up side. That's my message to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. By the way, we try to help and support also. We do different financing events on energy efficiency in our different member states. So we did it in Paris and some other places, and end of June in Sofia, for Central and Eastern European country in the context of CESEC. So we try also our part to disseminate better and get a better understanding of the sometimes national or regional issues linked to it. I see one last hand or one last question, and then we have to conclude, unfortunately.
Thank you for the interesting opening statements. I have a very brief question.
Thomas, you have to introduce yourself.
Thomas Nauer from the EPBD Association, sorry. We are facing this challenge of an upfront investment all the time, and you said it now yourself. You invest and then the tenant benefits. And what about this idea that has been floating around quite a few times, that we sell heat as a service, lighting as a service, so you actually make a bigger package that the tenant buys all together, and then you don't have that problem of redistribution of profits. Is that something that is in your thinking too, or also in the Better Homes project? Is that something you're looking at?
I think that could be one of the solutions, but again, in a Danish context, it had to be clear that this is not some way of going around the regulation. I mean, you have to have the tenants also accepting that this is their part of what you say, that everybody have to give their part to that we get better buildings.
And working with the sustainability theme is actually interesting, because a lot of tenants want to live in more sustainable homes, and it's actually an automatic part of refurbishment of a home that you get from us, very sustainable products. So the sustainability might be the headline, and then we can work with the awareness at this level.
Okay, thank you very much. A few concluding remarks from Mr. Benson, please.
I know time is running out, but I was simply encouraged to listen to Brune Poisson, the Secretary to the State, French Minister. I think just to say that we have a lot of opportunities now in the extending building mass, saving money, better living, creating a lot of jobs, and I think also that politicians must take their own medicine about public buildings now. We tell people how to do, but we have a lot of public buildings